We're now joined by CBS Sports NFL analyst, two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden. B-Mac, I want to get your take on this firing, this news that came down. We think about this timeline, and obviously the Tigers getting embarrassed by Texas A&M on Saturday. Now here we sit on Monday. What do you make of the timing of this news?
I felt like when you look at how lopsided the game was against A&M and just how out of place LSU looked in terms of the personnel and the execution, enough is enough. When you talk about the expectations, LSU, their expectations are extremely high. Brian Kelly jumped into a position that was vacated by a coach that won the national championship there at LSU. When you look at the coach before Coach Ed Orgeron and Les Miles, he was let go after having a successful tenure there in winning a national championship as well. So when you go into those said positions where the two previous coaches that you're replacing won national championships, oh, by the way, also won SEC championships, in your 4-year span, Brian Kelly, he has nothing to show for in terms of what those coaches did. Hasn't won an SEC championship, hasn't come close to winning a national championship. He never reached the expectations. So when you look at the nature of college football in totality, currently, these blue blood-like football programs, they will not exercise patience if they're not seeing any belief that you have the ability to win championships there. And that is the mindset with LSU, and that's why they felt like now was the time to go ahead and cut ties with Brian Kelly.
I feel like a program that is used to winning, has a history of winning, that leash gets a little bit shorter when you're starting to fall short of those expectations. But now I want to get your take. Do you think Brian Kelly ever fit the culture and expectations of coaching?
No, I never felt like, just being a fan from afar and watching college football my entire life, it feels like, I never felt like Brian Kelly and LSU was a match made in heaven. I think they tried to create that. They tried to establish that. Let's go back to the first intro with Brian Kelly being introduced to LSU. Remember the fake Southern accent that he displayed there in the basketball arena? It was like he was trying too hard to fit in. Be authentic, be yourself. Secondly, coming from Notre Dame, that is a national program. They can recruit anywhere in the country. But you go from Notre Dame down to the SEC. Southern football is different. The way you talk to these players, the way you recruit these prospects, their family, it's a different world. Trust me, I know. I'm a Southerner, and I played football in Florida. So when you talk about when I was being recruited by coaches from different places, the relatability wasn't oftentimes felt. And that's why I feel like this could be a disconnect, and they tried to make it work. But when you look at the overall landscape of things, he had issues, in my opinion, in just being able to fit in to that Southeastern Conference culture, which is different than other areas in terms of the country when it comes to college football.
Okay, well, you say that was not quite a match made in heaven. So let's make a match made in heaven. What do you think, who do you think is a good fit for LSU?
Well, listening to Brandon, he made some critical points in terms of LSU and how they go about their business. Anytime there's a head coaching vacancy there with their organization, they're not going to go small. They're not going to do what some other universities have done in the past and may go get a head coach from a group of 5 team, may get a head coach from a smaller conference. They're going to go big fish hunting. Big fish hunting. That's what they're going to do. And I have 3 names. The first name I like to throw out, Joe Brady. The reason why I'm going Joe Brady is because he was a part of a championship-like run there when Joe Burrow was the head coach. He was a part of an outstanding offense. When you look at having the luxury of having Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and how he utilized those players to be able to be put in position to be successful. And he understands the recruiting side of things, too, in the SEC. Currently, he helped Josh Allen accomplished an MVP a year ago. So you talk about a coach that's been successful collegiately and also doing so in the NFL. It makes perfect sense. What about Jimbo Fisher? The common theme with the Jimbo Fisher, he was once an LSU coach as well. He was on that staff with Nick Saban when they won the first national championship as the OC. He understands the Southeastern Conference culture. He understands how to recruit in that area. And oh, by the way, you can say whatever you want to say about Jimbo Fisher as a head coach. He's shown the ability to win. Won a national championship at Florida State, went to A&M, kind of turned that program around. Granted, things didn't work extremely well, but he's been successful. And we can't forget, when they read Jimbo up at A&M, one of the main reasons why he got that significant increase in terms of pay was because they felt like LSU was kind of poaching around the neighborhood to see if they can steal Jimbo Fisher away from A&M. So that makes perfect sense. And the last name, when I said big fish hunting, this ain't a fish. This is like a whale. This is like a big whale.
Yeah.
And we heard Brandon say, when you make this move for LSU, you got to be willing to pay top dollar. Nick Saban.
Making a big splash.
Nick Saban, in my opinion, would be the name that, in terms of recruits, in terms of prospects, you instantly drop everything and you hear him out because of his legacy. And I understand he said he is enjoying what he is doing now. It's a great job. But he also said he does not want his wife, Miss Terry, to hear any of these numbers that potential opportunities might throw out. Yeah. Because when she hears these numbers, she's like, oh, yeah, we got to go get the bag. And she also know, man, you still got it. And you know anything about relationships. Us as men, our homeboys can tell us one thing. Our family members can tell us one thing. But when the old lady tell you something and she like, you better go get that bread, go get the bread. So LSU, in terms of big whale hunting, that is the name I would consider as well, because you got to find a way to bring a guy in that you know will put you in positions to win championships when you make these kind of firings.
And knows about a winning culture. And I think that is extremely important as far as LSU when looking forward. But when we look at the rest of their season, I mean, they are playing in the juggernaut that we do call the SEC. They do have upcoming games against Alabama. Yeah. They also have an upcoming game against Oklahoma. But now that we're looking at this team, and we know they have good players on their roster, this is a good team.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like they made the move now, because let's say you stick around and you keep Brian Kelly there and he happens to beat Alabama. Well, you can't fire him now, right? You can't. So they felt like now is the time, but they still can correct their wrongs and find a way to finish on a good note with that Alabama game. You still have Oklahoma as well, who's currently a national ranked team also. So for LSU, man, in terms of the players that are currently there, it's your job to finish the drill. In terms of the coaches that are currently there, you want to show good favor and good graces that whoever the new head coach is, he might be willing to keep me on staff, because they have the resources, they have the NIL money, they have the culture, they have the tradition, they have everything. They're in the South. They got crawfish, they got beignets, they got anything you want in terms of getting the players in the building. They just need to go find the head man in charge that can be the ultimate leader of men 24/7 to be able to get the best on and off the football field.
You talk about they have crawfish, they have a culture of winning. And my question when I asked you about the timing and doing this now rather than waiting until later, we don't see this having any kind of effect on the negative side when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to the portal. No. Because I think we know that they are going after, like you've mentioned, and Brandon Marcello as well, they're going to go after that big fish. That still makes LSU a very appealing place for players.
Yeah, no question. I think when you make this move, first and foremost, when we look at college football, the landscape in terms of in-season firing, you just need one domino to fall. And you know what happens when one domino falls, many will fall behind them. When Penn State fired James Franklin, it made things a little easier for other universities to have to do the same thing when they had reservations about their head coach. Penn State fired James Franklin, and then look what happened. Florida fired Billy Napier, and now look what happened. LSU fired Brian Kelly. So if you're LSU and you've seen exactly what's happening in the world of college football, Penn State will be a coveted job that's available. Florida, who's in the same conference, the SEC, will be a coveted job that's available. You will have a West Coast job in UCLA, Stanford. There are so many quality jobs that are currently available right now, and Brandon also emphasized they could be a lot more available. You don't want to wait, because now when you fire your head coach, you're doing your due diligence. Who could we consider? Who would like to be our head coach? So now you can eliminate the time process of waiting around to the 25th hour to go get that head coach, especially when how important recruiting is. Because now when you talk to these prospects, you got to sell to them and their parents. We got a guy in place who we know you're going to love. Right? You can't go into these households and say, right now we don't know. We're hoping to go get the best guy. Because me as a recruit or as a parent, I don't want to hear that. I need to know exactly which direction are you going, so I know if I want to get in that car and follow you, if I want to go the opposite direction.
Tigers getting ahead of this early, making their decision with plenty of time before the end of this season and before the coaching carousel continues to spin. But for what it's worth, the portal for players at LSU begins tomorrow, and that lasts for 30 days. Bryant McFadden, we appreciate you stopping by with that insight right there. Taking a look at Brian Kelly's career as a head coach. I mean, 36 seasons. His record, 318 wins, 111 losses, 2 ties, but most notably, 34-14 wasn't going to cut it for the Tigers. As they're moving on, Brian Kelly will be finding a new place to call home.